What's the most WTF way you've seen someone brag about being rich? I'm so pissed at my mom. I mean, it's my 16th birthday, not hers. I should be able to get the BMW if I want it. She just keeps pushing the Mercedes on me though. I am going to be so mad if my birthday rolls around and the Mercedes is out front. It felt like I was in a MTV show. I wanted to throw up. Yeah, the guy wearing the $4,000 suit is holding the elevator for the guy who doesn't make that in 4 months. Come on. Double quote. Edit. Wow. My highest rated comment ever. Thanks. Scanning receipts for some very expensive purchases and making an album of all of them on Facebook. My dad had a better story than any I have. Basically, when he was growing up, one kid he went to school with and lived near was rich. This kid wasn't averse to announcing it too, but his favorite way of displaying it was with new trinkets toys. So one day, he emerges into daylight with a brand new, and quite fancy, skateboard. This is early on, when skateboards weren't yet associated with names like Tony Hawk and so on. After trying for all but 30-40 minutes and not being able to land a single trick, the douche gets fed up, picks up the skateboard, and hurls it into a wooded area off the road. As he does this, he screams, "Fight for it, peasants." In middle school I knew a kid who claimed he was so rich that raccoons didn't come on his property. It wasn't that they paid for fences or anything. No, the raccoons just knew. TLDR kid claimed raccoons only visit the poor. I had a guy come into the GameStop I used to work at that would tell stories about throwing money off balconies. He went to buy this game once and after I told him the total, he pulled out an absurd wad of 100s and counted them all out on my counter. After reaching $7,000, he then asks, "Wait, how much was it again?" Blank stare. $18. Duck you. Tesh. There's a guy in my group who can't stop talking about how awesome it is that his rich mom pays for everything for him. The funniest thing to watch is when he's hitting on our waitress, because he always hits on the waitress every time we go out, and the check comes, and he proudly tells her that his bill is going on his mom's credit card. Oh yeah, dude, you're really going to impress her with that one. I make and sell custom jerseys for a local sports team, which is not the cheapest merchandise, and one night a few weeks ago a customer was talking to me about this and that and thinking about making a purchase. He was asking me all kinds of strange questions about whether I believe in God, whether I believe in marriage, if I have a husband, if I'm an honest Christian, etc. Generally making me a little uncomfortable. As well, he kept pulling out this huge wad of hundreds and leaving it on the counter in front of me to show that he could obviously afford whatever he wanted. A second customer approached. A shaky old man who was obviously not very well off, but I had seen him before and knew he had saved up some money to buy a couple jerseys. I'm not sure how exactly it got to this point, as they had exchanged words and began posturing and whatever, but the rich man, being kind of an arsehole, made a comment to the second man that he probably has more money in his one pocket than the other man has total. He bet $10. And the second man was feeling pretty confident as he had saved up a lot for this day, and so he took it. He counted his money out on the counter in front of me, close to about $1,200 total. The rich guy, smug D he was, calmly began counting his cash, getting to $3,000 and then pulling out more money that he had in his other pockets and wallet. He doesn't stop until he's reached $5,000 and then tells the poorer man to pay up the 10 he owes. The other man is upset and his daughter comes up and tells him to keep his cool and asks why he would even agree to that stupid bet and has to pull him away from my stand. The rich guy then says to me, "Some people, he didn't end up buying anything, and as he left he told me to keep being a good Christian." The whole experience left a very sour taste in my mouth and left me feeling upset the rest of the night. Who the duck does that? TLDR rich man challenges a poor man to a money counting contest. I once heard a kid say he got 2 juicy drinks in his lunchbox. I was bumped up to first class on my way home from a trip. I've never been in first class and assumed it was just better seats and food options, but no. I was suddenly treated differently, as if I had suddenly become more important than everyone else on the plane. I especially remember at the end of the flight when first class was unloading. My bags were still in the back of the plane, so I didn't get up right away and was planning on waiting for everyone to get off before me. The flight attendants offered to make everyone make way for me to get to the back of the plane, get my bags, and get off. I told her that I didn't want to inconvenience everyone, and she responded, "Maybe they are the ones inconveniencing you." This statement took me by surprise. Is this really the way rich people think? Perhaps not the most WTF story ever, but it was shocking for me. My cousin put up a post on Facebook complaining that since her son and husband moved to their new neighborhood, they only ever see Bentleys, Jaguars, Range Rovers and the like driving down the streets. She was complaining that when she and her son now go on walks, they are getting bored of calling out all the same cars, and she wishes that someone would just drive a damn Toyota and make our walks interesting. My ex is a very successful lawyer with his own firm. After I would cook dinner for us, we would sit at the large dining room table and he would make a point to sit at the opposite end, 12 ft away. I would comment about it saying I wish he would sit closer while just the two of us ate. He would reply, "You obviously wouldn't understand, but this is how rich people eat." He also left price tags on everything he would purchase for his house, face up, so everyone could see his ugly $12,000 lamp. Saw a girl in my college class absolutely break down after receiving a phone call. She re-entered the classroom crying, red in the face, etc. We all rushed to her to ask her what was wrong. She broke the news to us that her dad had forgotten to give her shopping money for later. He had acted like her entire world would be ending. The looks on our faces turned from worry to disbelief. Edit. Gee whiz. I went to bed with this being at -12 karma only to wake with almost 1,500. To answer everyone's questions, she was legitimately upset because of material items. Something about some new Mary Kay line was what she was so upset about not being able to buy. She then asked if anyone had any money she could borrow, and everyone just stared at her some more because we were all still in shock. Our professor just sent her away with a "maybe you should leave" in a completely deadpan voice. This was in my intro to oral communications class. She ended up getting an F for sure. Every speech she gave, she started playing a YouTube video and would then sit and file her nails. The second time she tried this, the teacher stopped her and told her to just not come up if she wasn't going to talk. Every time someone says anything to my cousin about her stuff, she has to make a point to tell you how much it costs. For example, "You, wow, nice house." My cousin, "Thanks, it was $5 million. You, I like your shoes." My cousin, "Thanks, they were $2,500. You, nice nose." My cousin, "Thanks, it was $20,000. A friend paid for dinner the other night saying I'm about to drop $250 to cover everyone's tabs, loudly and repeatedly. He then yelled, "This bill is nothing to me. I just got a huge check from my company. I ducking love being rich." He is also on Reddit and follows my comments, so now he knows that we all know. Edit. I'd write down his username for you all, but I forgot my pen. Without a doubt, this guy, he ties $4,000 to the end of a balloon and lets it go, just because he can. Was at a fancy bar. Maybe I was too blue collar for the crowd. Whatever. Having a good time with my friends. When we were talking cars and I pronounced the make Jaguar, Doucher bag on the next stool takes the time to lean over and say it's pronounced Jaguar. Friends were quiet. They knew me. Turned to the duck and said, "I don't think I give a shit." Snickers abound. Continued having my good time. Man, this sucks. My mum only got me the less expensive Lamborghini model more than instead of the less than more expensive Lamborghini model more than a 16-year-old male whose dad raced horses where I waited tables. Although I did get a $100 tip for getting his dad a cup of coffee and him a Monster. From my experience, people that actually have money or come from money do not talk about it. It's those with fleeting wealth that brag. In elementary school, some kid claimed he was so rich his poop was made of gold. He said he's nice so he gives poor people his poop. Edit. I might have met him again. I just got the golden poop. This may never reach top of comments, but I have a friend who's overly modest of how rich he is. Not exactly what you guys were looking for, but I'll share. His father's the CFO of a multi-million-dollar advertising corporation and is the nicest guy in the world. They held Yamaha as a client for 20 years, if that gives a good idea of how well off they were. Lives in a giant house in the nicest part of Orange County. 3 stories. And he and his brother both got the newest line Dodge Chargers when they both turned 16. Not to mention, they go to Hawaii and own homes on the main island. To add it all up, they just happen to be personal family friends with the lead singer of One Republic, so I've been told. So, he never talks of his wealth, but always treats us out to hockey games, season tickets to the Lakers games, and whatnot. One day, we're all hanging out at my house one day and we're talking about the housing industry. We mention his house and crack a few jokes about how nice it is and we would sell our families to live there. He says, "Oh come on guys. My family's not rich." His dad calls him 3 minutes later and on speakerphone we hear, "Hey son, just got the new 2013 5 Series BMW for you, Mom. And ME. Bring your friends to test it out." Silence. Well doubt maybe we have a little money to spend. I never wear the same socks twice. This kid in my high school got a Porsche 911 the day he got his permit. He was chauffeured to school in it every day for the next 6 months by his personal driver. When he got his license, he drove it for like 3 months and then complained about having to downgrade to a BMW M5 because it handled snow better. Full stop. I used to help tutor a self-described rich kid. One time he had just purchased a new car. I believe it was an Audi something or other. We were out for drinks with my other friend, who was a corporate lawyer. My lawyer friend was by no means poor, so the chat with the Audi made the mistake of rubbing it in my face that he had a new car. He said something like, "Well, if you keep tutoring successful people like me, maybe one day you too could have something nice." My lawyer buddy just started laughing. He then said, "Get ducked you itty mama's boy. My dad owns the dealership you got that car from. It's financed. Like my Escalade which I paid for in cash. Maybe if you keep studying, one day you won't have monthly payments. Like a ducking commoner." I guess my lawyer friend was sticking up for me. Man, it's the thought that counts. I went to a bar at school with my fiancée and some friends. We sat near a guy and a girl on a first date. The girl, on numerous occasions, actually complained about various vacations she went on with her family. Like the guy would mention something, she would bring up how something similar happened when she went to X, and then would make a negative comment about the trip or the location. I could hear most of this because she was so ducking loud. By the time we left, the guy was visibly checking other girls out and genuinely not listening to her at all. Working as a cashier, a customer brought items up but told me to wait for his girlfriend. His girlfriend, about 10-20 years younger than him, had flowers. He exclaims, "You're going to get dirt on the BMW seats." He then turns to me and says, "I drive a BMW 745i. Don't care." Next, I ask if he would like to pay cash, credit, or debit. He takes out his card, taps it on the counter to show it is not plastic but metal. Ooh fancy, and says, "American Express, black." Whoop-de-doo. You drive a BMW 7 Series and have a black card. You have a large credit limit and a luxury sedan. Reading this thread, I'm getting a better understanding of why history is dotted with incidents of very poor people brutally murdering very rich people. A kid I knew really wanted a PS2 and there was this rich kid who knew this and bought 2 PS2s and smashed one in front of the kid who had wanted one. I'll take the most expensive thing on the menu. My friend asked another friend why does he always carry so much cash on him, over $2,000 on a random Thursday night, to which he replied, "You never know when you'll have to buy a car." Yes, the guy was dead. I used to bounce at a bar on Sunset BL here in LA. My friends took me out clubbing on one of my nights off. I had a day job too. We went to a bar on Sunset right next door to the bar I worked at. I was friendly with their bouncers and had helped them out a couple of nights when they needed help. The owner was a cool old vet and was going to let everyone in for free. As this is going on, a limo pulls up and let's just say some Middle Eastern douchebags start pushing my friends out of the way. These guys were drunk as hell and talking trash to anyone who got in their way. They were the security and friends for the knucklehead, now telling my friends to, and I quote, "Get out of my way, you stupid Americans." Now I was in the service, and so were most of my friends. The owner of the bar looks me straight in the eye and says, "Remove this trash for me, will ya?" The looks on their faces was priceless. These guys were used to pushing people around. It wasn't pretty for them. We walked into the bar, drank for free in the VIP with the owner, and when the cops got there they went to jail. Best night ever. PS. These same guys also tried to get into the bar I worked at a couple months later. My boss, who I told the whole story to, was standing next to me when these guys pulled the same at walking up to the front door. I just leaned over to my boss and said, "It's them." He started laughing and told them we were full up. The whole time we were letting people in the club. The guy starts throwing a hissy fit. My boss said, "That's right. We got enough douchebags in there already." All their faces dropped. Never saw them again. Just a few weeks ago, one of my friends posted that he bought a horse to go along with the amount of property he has. Now he is posting about how the horse has gas, grazing too much, and he is scared to try to go near it. I'm about ready to call animal control anonymously, fearing that it is being neglected by a grown man that wanted a pony and got one. Saw a white boy at a movie theater with some skanky looking girl that he was trying to impress. Walks up and orders a $7 popcorn. Hands the lady a $100 bill. She just looks at him and says, "You have anything smaller?" He pauses for a sec and says, "Yeah, I guess," and proceeds to hand her one of the 10s in his wallet. I saw a guy who made a small arcade in his garage with his father, and so this rich arsehole rubbed it in by one-upping him with an arcade basement. Nearly 3x the games. Completely furnished with a bar and alcohol. Bragging in a snooty way. My mom told me that when we moved to America from the Philippines, I was 2 and hard of hearing. She met her friend at a mall once and hit it off well as friends. Then that woman hired my mom to babysit her 2 kids, and she'd pay her because we were literally that poor. My dad was a student at the time, working low paying jobs and struggling to make ends meet. Anyways, my mom said that woman bragged every day about what she bought the other day, how much it cost. Every time my mom and I comes over, she'd show her all the nice things she had. And we were living in a tiny apartment. My mom wanted Asian food, but they were too expensive. But still made us a full dinner every night and took care of me and my dad. This woman and my mom are still friends to this day. But that woman stopped talking about her money since her son got leukemia. Her husband injured his back and is forced to retire early. Her daughter is doing alright, but doing what her mom used to do. Showing off her Michael Kors bags, fancy blings, and such. I look at all my mom's friends and I know that they're all richer than my family. But my family is kicking ass. Making sure I'm successful in college. Already going into my 4th year bachelor's program in criminal justice. All my mom's friends' kids are taking CNA classes at their local community college. They all used to look down on me because I was hard of hearing and wore hearing aid and we were poorer than them. It was hard watching them brag to my mom. I've got more Mercedes-Benzes and a Hitler motorcade. When I was in boot, a little over 4 years ago now, we had this guy who came from a rich family. During the first weekend, we were cleaning the barracks that we had just moved into. It was an all-day thing because the barracks had been unoccupied and was all full of dust. Plus we were brand new boots, so we were moving slow for military standards. I watched this 4-flusher walk around the barracks with a bottle of Simple Green and approach every group of guys and ask them, "Do you know what an H3 is? Do you like them? My parents bought me one before I shipped. It has this feature, that feature." Guy would not stop talking about H3s until every member of the company had made a positive comment. Slept 3 feet from the guy for 8 weeks and all I knew about him was his name, where he was from and everything he owned. I thought he was just being chode at the time. But looking back, I think it was his way of adjusting to the equality that gets forced on you when you get introduced to how ranks work. Saw him in the fleet really briefly 3 years ago. He was cleaning the building that we were in when they advanced me. On my first date, My now ex told me that his past girlfriends loved bragging about how rich he was. He was indeed rich, but a cheating arsehole who's not worth a penny. A friend overheard the following in a Dallas bar after her friend turned down some frat boys. Doesn't she know my trust fund is bigger than her clit? That picture of Drake at a club where he has a box of bills and keep grabbing packs of them to make it rain. My ex-roommate's parents are millionaires. The wife is an alcoholic biologist, and the husband is a pill-popping doctor that's been banned from practicing at our local hospital, so he runs a private practice out of his house. My roommate would flaunt the money by spending hundreds a night at the strip club on drinks, etc. For her 20th birthday, her parents got her lap band surgery and constantly bragged about it. In my Spanish class, this one asshole to everybody claims that he ordered President Bush to launch Desert Storm. He wouldn't have been alive. I am surrounded by obvious lying idiots. I saw someone burn money in a bonfire. I was getting quite serious with an extremely rich man that I was dating. His parents did not like me because I didn't come from money and often referred to me as his assistant. I corrected them every single time and said no, he doesn't pay me. I'm his girlfriend. His father came back one time and said I wasn't pretty enough to be his girlfriend and that I should stop deluding myself. After 5 years of dating, he proposed. We shared the good news with his parents. His mother said she wasn't going to speak to him again and that I wasn't welcomed in her home. My fiance's father had the nerve to offer me money to get away from his son and never speak to him again. He flashed several thousand in front of me and said something to the effect of "This is what you're worth. Now get out of our lives." I paused for a moment and then took the money. My fiance and I are getting married the end of next month. I donated the money the father gave me and mailed him a letter thanking him for his very charitable donation. I bet smoke was coming out of his ears when he got the letter. I also let him know that whether rich or poor, being a good person is what is most important in life. And no, we did not mail him an invite. I taught math in a Russian supplementary school and tutored through college. Russian immigrant kids seem to be rich these days. Unlike when my own family moved over and we shared our tiny Brooklyn apartment with giant rats for a while. It was surreal to hear 8-year-olds talking about birthday money, the likes of which I couldn't earn in a month teaching the little bastards. Most of them were pretty charming though. I have a friend who I consider to come from an affluent family and he judges people on how big their house is. Or if he can't see that, how expensive their shoes are. My first post. Being a medic in the military, I was sent down to San Antonio, Texas for training after I finished basic training. Our 8, advanced individual training, is one of the longest in the army, about 5 months, and we have a lot of dropouts. So, what I'm trying to say is, it was considered hard to graduate. My buddies and I decided to seize the giddiness we were feeling our last day and went to a somewhat pricey steakhouse. The total came to about $800.00 between the 4 of us. We had already blown most of our money on plane tickets and gear, so we're freaking out. After we got the check, I walked outside to smoke a cigarette and ponder what the fastest escape route was, hoping we could blend in with the thousands of other military guys walking around. That's when I heard this loud as duck roar behind me, and know it, this beautiful Maserati pulls up into the parking lot. If my pants weren't tight enough at this point, this smoking hot blonde gets out of the passenger's seat. I turn to the guy who was driving, young dude, and say, "That is an awesome ride." Know it. Without even looking in my direction he says, "Which one?" So at this point I'm thinking, this dude's a ducking D. Yet, with a gorgeous blonde in a badass car you can afford to be whatever you want, right? Anyway, finished my smoke, walked back in, and we tried for the next hour to stall paying. Finally, when my buddy pulled his wallet out, the server said it was already taken care of, along with the tip. I instantly looked across the restaurant at the guy. He gave me a thumbs up. I hope to God 100 V's found his crotch that night. So's parent mentioned her and her BF were going to get a bigger plane so she can fly and visit us when we move across the state for school. So and I will be living extremely meager, as usual. It's whatever, in an apartment or mobile home, and this itch is talking about airplanes. She also told us to enjoy the carefree college life. We both work full time and so has to take out loans for school because he doesn't qualify for financial aid and his parents don't contribute. It's only going to get worse when we transfer for grad school. She also talked down on So's cousin who had to live modestly to put himself through engineering school. I'm embarrassed for her to see our place now and after we move. I wonder what she thinks. Some people just have no grasp on reality. I knew a girl in primary school who said her dad was so rich that she'd be at Eton, but her mum said she should mix with normal people and go to a state school. She threw a tantrum when I called her out on it because her dad worked for the council. B. Eton is a secondary school and C. Eton is a boys' school. I was a ski instructor at a very fancy resort, and predictably some of the kids were atears. There was this one kid that was super ducking loud about how his mom shopped at Tiffany & Company for all of her jewelry, and how she had gotten him a bracelet that was $50,000 or some stupid it. Anyway, I'm older and way more mature than he is, so the trolling begins. Him: my mom only shops at Tiffany & Company. Me: oh, that's alright. I like Tiffany, but & Company isn't that great. Him: my loft in Manhattan is $5 million. Me: oh, I got one of those too, but I got a really good deal on mine. Full disclosure, the kid might have been slightly autistic, but in my defense I know other rich autistic kids that aren't cocks about their money. Duck him. Dealing craps to Phil Ivey, poker legend. He got flown in by a private jet with an entourage of teenagers, saying, if they can't be on the gaming floor, I'll take my $5 million elsewhere. He bought in with a $5 million marker, and then played about $250,000 across on the craps game. He'd have one of the kids shoot the dice for him, and when they'd crap out, he'd yell, see what you just did? You just made me lose more money than you'll ever make in your life. How does that make you feel? You just lost me $250,000. How do you feel about that? The kids looked down each time without answering. I had small back and forth with him over a technical term regarding the game. Hold the ducking table up. Stop the game. I want to see the casino manager, he said. The casino manager walked over to him, and he whispered in her ear. She walked away, and everyone I worked with gave me death stares, especially the other managers around. I was terrified. A while later another dealer walks up and replaces the dealer across from me. Then Phil Ivey says, now the only people here are guys who like pussy. No more faggots on this table. Then he winked at me. The dealer he had taken off the game was really gay, and I spoke with him shortly after. He was completely humiliated. He joked about suing Ivy, but said he'd never sink so low. Full stop.